Hello, my name is Russel Manjapani, LEGO Lord on my socials, and this is Daro from the Bad Batch. So basically, I built a semicircular build. It's a cutaway of the inside of the base that the Bad Batch raid while trying to rescue their clone brother. It's infested with Imperials, so it is rather hard for them to get through it. They end up having to take a variety of avenues to try and escape the base.
So take us through some of the characters in the story that's going on here.
Yeah, so basically the Bad Batch come in and they have to pull Gregor out of prison. While escaping, they run into some problems, and that is what I've depicted here with the clones fighting the commandos.
And are these all custom, or where did
Yeah.
these come from?
So most of the customs are Clone Army customs, but then the Bad Batch is minifigs for you. And then I have also done some decal work with the TK Troopers, as LEGO has not made those yet.
So fantastic work there. The minifigures look great. Talk about kind of the building itself here. How did this come together for you?
Yeah, so it actually came together rather quickly. I did it in about 6 weeks. It's made out of a bunch of angular sections that when I put them together give you more of an arc looking shape. I've also included a few smaller rooms within it, obviously the hallway, but then I've also included a hangar bay with some troops getting ready with a variety of different crates. I've also included a vent room. This is where the clones end up escaping out of the vent shaft, as well as the prison which they rescue Gregor from.
And one nice thing here is you've added kind of the detailing on the walls, so it's not just big gray flat walls. What were some of the pieces you used there?
Yeah, so that was something I really liked a lot, was all the greebling on the walls. One of the main pieces that I use is the cupboard doors. If you turn them around, you can attach the handle into the grill, and that is what most of the wall is made up of, as well as just a bunch of different little pieces, a lot of bars and stuff like that.
You've also incorporated some great lighting throughout this. So were those lighting kits, or where did you get that?
So I learned how to solder lighting. It really brings the cost of the build down overall. All the lights in this build I did for about under $50. I learned how to do this. Rich Boy J on YouTube, he did a video on how to light your LEGO builds. I suggest watching that, but it was very comprehensive, and that's how I learned how to solder my own lights.
Fantastic. I love to hear it. Additional new skills as you're building.
Yes, that was a rather interesting skill I learned while building these mocks.
So this section is really interesting here with kind of those red pieces inlaid.
So that section, it's meant to be an elevator shaft. I didn't end up having time to build the elevator itself, but that is the elevator shaft. I tried to keep it as accurate as possible with the red lighting in the back from the show.
And then the floor, is that all just kind of studs not on top, sideways?
So it was completely snot. I couldn't figure out a way to make the base kind of end, as in the show obviously would have gone much farther into the ground. So I decided on just using black snot on the bottom. I thought it was the best way to end it off.
And as we move to the outside of the building, you've got some fantastic exterior builds here as well. So let's take a look at some of these trees and landscaping.
I had a lot of fun with this, so I used rocks on the outside, just attached them to mixel joints, and I thought it worked rather well. And then I made some trees. A lot of it was lug bulk parts, so that really helped bring the cost down. But I used a lot of the brown zipline pieces in addition to about 1,000 Indiana Jones whips.
Yeah, that's incredible. Those are the all whip pieces in there?
Yep. Most of it's flex tube and whips. I just uncurled the whips, and then when you recurl them around, it helps hold everything together as well as making it look more like a tree.
Yeah. So what is it just flex tubing then in the very middle? So you just kind of curl those around? I don't think I've ever really seen that.
It's pretty much just flex tube and then some circular plates with holes in them. And then, yeah, that pretty much makes up the trees. It was something unique. I'd seen a couple people do it, and I had experimented with on a smaller scale, but I thought it looked rather nice to be able to do it with some taller trees.
It's kind of a great, like, gnarly look to the bark a little bit there. But then the leaves you attached are nice as well, kind of in clumps at the end.
That's what I tried to do. It's really nice, the LEGO leaf pieces. You can actually stick them into each other at random angles rather than just directly on the stud placements. It makes it look more like a tree, and you get pieces sticking out all over the place, looking more like leaves.
Are those pretty structurally sound, or how did that work?
So the leaves can be rather difficult to put together, but as long as you get some stud connections in there at the base to kind of hold it all together, they work rather well. As far as the trees go, they're actually very strong because of the technique I use, and a lot of the pieces working well together. I have a lot of actual connections within them rather than just pieces set in there, and it really helps to hold everything together.
And then coming back to this rock work here, that's a really interesting choice instead of doing like the normal slopes and stuff. So how did you kind of experiment with other types of rock work?
So I've done other types of rock work in the past. So that was one of the reasons why I decided to do it. It was something I'd really not experimented with before, and it's something I wanted to kind of try out. Nice thing with this kind of rock work is I can use a variety of pieces, and it's still going to look rather nice. So I don't have to worry about buying a ton of one piece like I would if I was doing just a bunch of slopes. I can use wedges, I can use wedge bricks, I can use plate, I can use slopes. Any kind of piece that's dark bluish gray, I can kind of just shove in there and it looks decent.
And as we round the back here, you actually kind of a behind-the-scenes look at the build, and you can see what all is required to keep this up.
Yes, it's pretty much just Duplo and plate back there, and then obviously you can see most of the wiring, all the solder work done back there. It does get a little messy, but if you know what you're doing, it can turn out pretty nice.
And on the other side, is it kind of a similar idea with the trees and landscaping?
Very similar, just more landscaping, kind of to give the build its own backdrop.
And I know we were talking before the interview, you had some struggles traveling
Yes.
here with the build. So talk about that experience. Is there anything you kind of learned from that
Yes.
for the future?
So one, I have to learn how to pack better. I've done a little bit of research now after this experience on how to pack better, but going into this, I had put the build in 3 different crates, split it down the middle and whatever. But I came here, opened it up, and all 3 of them were completely destroyed. So the past 4 or 5 days, I've been just working since the convention opened to when it closed to put it all back together from memory. Hadn't taken many pictures.
So
Fun experience.
hopefully you can find some better packing,
Yes.
maybe some other ideas. And if anyone's wondering, we actually have a video on the channel with Martin Harris where he kind of pulled a lot of his builds out and showed how he packs and everything because he goes to a lot of shows. So we'll make sure to link that in the description of this video. So hopefully more people can find some good tips for that.
Yeah. And I do also want to just thank a couple guys that helped me kind of finish it off as it was pretty much destroyed. I had David, he was really helping me out. And then I also had a couple other guys coming in, Jimmy and a couple other guys. They were just really helping me finish this off.
Yeah.
Makes it look a lot better.
Do you have any idea how many pieces are in the whole build?
As far as the whole build together, I estimate at least 25,000.
Okay.
But it could be more, it could be less. The trees have quite a few pieces in them.
For the main building sections here, I know those are kind of each building in their sections. Are those all pretty strong? We kind of saw a little bit of what's holding that up.
So some of them can be a little rough to get up, but the mixel joints in the back hold them. So as long as you can get a strong connection. Honestly, the hardest part about those is getting them to stay once they're in, as you have to kind of put those up first and then build around them. But once they're in, and as long as you attach them right, they actually stand rather well. It's just paneling.
As you were working on this, you're working with the source material from the show and everything, right? So how did that work? Were you looking at screenshots or how was that?
Yes. So I actually took my phone and recorded it off my MacBook, and then I transported it back to my MacBook, and then I went frame by frame so I could get kind of still shots of every part of the episode, make it as accurate as possible.
Is it difficult building those like narrow kind of tunnel areas there and
Yeah.
kind of keeping not knocking everything down?
So those are actually really fun to build. I enjoyed that. So a technical challenge behind this is LEGO doesn't make steep enough slopes to get that wide of a curve. So I actually had to use kind of a slope on slope reverse technique to get a longer and kind of more drawn out curve to it. It really makes it look kind of nice. It's like inverted pizza pieces into each other.
What are these little details in this area here?
So that is the vent room. I had a lot of fun with that. That was my favorite parts of the build. Within the show, they can't get through the elevator because it's blockaded by the Imperials, so they end up having to sneak through the vents. So that is the vent control room, and I had a lot of fun with that. It was one of my favorite parts.
Fantastic. So if people want to see this build in person, will you have this at any other shows? I know you're figuring out how to travel more, so hopefully you'll have it other places.
Yes. So actually this September it will be in Brickworld Detroit if anybody is in the area, but then actually next spring it will be in Brickworld Chicago as well.
And more Star Wars builds planned for the future?
Oh, yes. My next one's going to be in Barra.
Okay. Great work. Well, keep up the great work. Look forward to seeing more. Thank you.
Thank you very much.